I'm just serving as the room host, so to help with the logistics. So just a few things, just to repeat a couple things that Mahina said in there. So we're going to run until, I think we go this session until 11:15. And we're going to save 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. So I'll help the presenters with a little bit 10-minute warning, 5-minute warning. So there's restrooms right around the corner. If you need to get up and use a restroom, that's totally fine. As Mahina said, though, we're going to try to not go back and forth between the other sessions. But at the break, there'll be a chance for some refreshments, bathroom break, and then if you want to check out a different session or a different track, that would be totally fine at that time. Let's see. Yeah, so there'll be some snacks outside here after this session. Is Paul. And I just want to give a short introduction to our speakers. So the title of this session is Restoring Pilina Aina, One Food Forest at a Time. So launched in 2000, the Kohala Center is a nonprofit working to provision our communities to be resilient by returning to Aina and ancestral knowledge as daily practice. Growing healthy Aina that grows healthy food is a foundation of the Kohala Center's work to ensure all our relations are fed well across this region. Today, the TKC team will share how becoming Aina partners, restoring Pilina Aina, can help restore food sovereignty, one native food forest at a time. To introduce Charlotte Pinoy.
So we're going to start just with a brief ho'olauna or introduction invitation. We start with Aina, all those that feed us, and so we thought it was important to start with Kohala. Early on in my time coming to the Kohala Center, one of our board members said, what might it be, what might happen if you put Kohala at the center of the Kohala Center? Well, that's kind of interesting. We should do that. And so we've been on this great journey to understand who Kohala is. And so one of the things when we talk about Kohala, I know it's often, right, Kohala is a moku, we think about it geographically, and Waimea as Kamuala Plunket has taught us as a kalana or okana. But what is the relationship between these places? And what we've come to say when we say Kohala, we don't mean North Kohala or South Kohala or all of the above. We mean every person, every being for which Kohala's waters nourish. And so that extends actually across multiple moku, because that's how rich our way is for us. The other thing we learned about Kohala is we kind of know this, but we don't really think about what it means, is it's our eldest elder. So when you think of our different mauna that we're surrounded by here, Kohala is the heapo, or in the Hawaiian way of thinking, it's the eldest sibling. And in Hawaiian culture, our eldest siblings have each sibling in your birth order has a unique responsibility or kuleana to the ohana. And so for the eldest, you were brought to your kupuna, and you were taught by your kupuna, and they transmitted the knowledge to you so that you could lead by example, and that you could also make sure that you nourish all your siblings. And so for all of us, we recognize that we have lots to learn from our eldest sibling who is transmitting that knowledge from our ancestors. As we started wanting to build relationship with Aina, we started seeing how does our work flow into this waihona, this vessel for which all things that we care about, that we value, that flow into. And so we really recognized that it was important to become skilled practitioners, right, and be part of a collective of skilled practitioners, that our ike kupuna, our ancestral knowledge will flow, and we would be preserving that. That our stories and our mo'olelo, that we would preserve that as sacred. All of our native seeds and seedlings and our food plants, that we would have that seed bank, right, for future generations. Of course, that we would preserve and protect our waters, and of course also the funding that helps make all this go. And so as over the years, and this is just some of the numbers over the last 5 years of things that we've been working on and some of the impact of that, and the kalo that's been gifted out to communities so that huli can be perpetuated over 1,200 pounds and 48,000 huli. We steward actually 1,400 acres. So it's actually from the mountain to the ocean, but it's across, now it's not in one place. It's across actually three moku and a total of 1,400 acres. Our team planted 23,000 native plants over the last 5 years plus, and we are carrying some of the very important kupuna collections of our canoe plants. So, so many things happening. You'll get to hear a little bit about that through our team today. But when we realized, like, if you saw that ubeke was empty, right? Like we're filling it up, we're like, well, we need a picture of what that looks like when it's really abundant. And so we recognize that when we have that connection, that relationship with Aina, and it's strong, then we know that is an indicator that all of our relations are being fed, the humans and the non-humans, so kako. So we asked ourselves, kind of going forward, these next 5 years, so for Kohala, and these are the places from Kohala all the way around to the bend to Namoku, for Kohala to be well provisioned, how do we grow and share more food from Aina? Simple question, not easy answer. And so now we have a different picture that's setting us forward in terms of how do we bring all of the things we do into the Waikona and as a food forest, and how does that feed all our relations. So that's what we're here to talk about. I have a wonderful part of our team representing, and they'll each share some stories and some hoa with you. And so I'm going to have each of us just share our names, what our role is with the Kohala Center, and just any relationship that we have to Waimea. Again, my name is Cheryl Kauhanelupe Nui. I'm the president and CEO for the Kohala Center. I actually am married to a Lindsay, and so I have deep roots here, and our in-laws live out here on Pu'ukapu on the Hawaiian homesteads. I work in Waimea as well, and I also am very proud that I shop all the markets, all the farmer markets, and so I eat from our Aina every day. Jason.
Hello everyone. My name is Jake Merkel. As Cheryl said, I work for Kohala Center. I live in Waimea, wet side, what used to be wetter side. And then my little crew and I, we base out of Lalamilo. That's where we stage all of our work operation out of and move to our different Aina that we work on. And I'm also going to bring Ohia with me today. This is going to be my partner to help me with confidence and talking about the Kohala cloud forest.
Ano ai ke aloha kākou, wau ka iana runnels no hoi a kihalani ma lau ka hoi hoi. My connection to Kohala, I also married into Kohala. My wahine is a partner, and yeah, I am the Mahi Aina supervisor. We malama na Aina in Namoku in Hamakua, in Honoka'a, and yeah, that's the kupuna cup I brought with me today is alpha. I'll explain a little bit more right after. Wow.
Aloha, Margot Shuriano. I am the Rural Economies Development Manager, so I work with our Mahi'ai and our ranchers here in Waimea. I was born and raised in Waimea, lived on the continent for 20 some years, and then returned now, and enjoying reconnecting with all of our community and seeing how much Waimea has changed, and it's really embraced our Aina and all the work that's happening. So the hoa that I bring with me is coal, our native coal, our heirloom coal, and I'll share a little bit more.
Hello, my kako. My name is Aniani Kucha'ong. My connection or pilina to Waimea is grew up here in Waimea, Waimea and Waipi'o. I also live here in Puhio Village, homestead. It's pretty much the place that's raised me. I'm a Mo'olelo Aina specialist, so helping to tell the stories of Aina through our work here in Kohala and beyond. And I brought with my partner.
So we're just going to go down the line. I have a few questions of my team to help share and bring out some of the work that we're doing around food and food sovereignty. So we'll start with Jake, who is our Kohala Watershed Field Supervisor. So Jake, Okay, so we know the way of Kohala feeds many communities, as we mentioned, our humans and our non-humans on Hawaii Island. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more, as somebody who gets to go to the source, the Po'owai, in our rare cloud forest, and just do we have an idea of like actually how many people are we really feeding?
On the show. Yeah, so I'm very fortunate, feel so lucky to be able to work up in our Kohala Cloud Forest almost on a daily basis. So I first start thinking about our vai of Kohala, actually like in the ocean itself. It starts to turn into cloud formations and move upslope onto Kohala Mountain, usually from the windward side of the mountain up over our peak. And I think about all the different ways that vai comes in contact with our forest and our landscape. And you know, it's almost impossible to come up with a number that's accurate that would kind of represent how much that vai reaches across the landscape and across the planet. I mean, it's all part of this huge cycle. But to put it into, I guess, some number that is going to give us an idea of how the vai of Kohala feeds, I think about when it first comes down into our cloud forest and all the native species. Like that's the community that was here first. That was the community before any people were here on this land. It's being fed by all of our native forest birds, all our apapani, amakihi, elapaio, all the little snails and all the ferns and layers of forest, and then down into the soil and down into our aquifer. We're lucky enough that we get to also use some of that vai through the streams going down by Pio, Waimanu, Olu, Wamakani, and all the agriculture that was in the past thriving off of that vai, and then down into our aquifer. And that's something that's hard to really imagine because we can't see what's going on. We just have kind of a guess of what is happening, our water table, and we think we know what's going on down there, but it's all kind of scientific and guesswork actually. So, but the number that I've come up with, and it could be totally off, on a daily basis, I think that around 26 to 28,000 residents and non-residents use the water from Kohala in North and South Kohala. But then, how does that water reach other places and food, and ranching and farming, and where are those crops going and being utilized? So really, it's almost impossible to know how far and wide reaching our water for Kohala is.
Well, as we learned, Waimea is it means everything, and the extent is far. Well, you brought a hoa, and so our Kohala, our companion plants. So Kohala Cloud Forest is the oldest native forest on Hawaii Island. Who are some of these ancient kupuna there that are helping create this water, helping to catch it, and helping to share it with all of us?
Jake, sorry. I think speak up a little bit so
sure.
everybody can hear. Thank you.
Thanks. We have this fan behind us, so it's
Oh,
hard to
yeah.
hear you guys.
It's real hot because I was wondering if we could turn off the fan.
We can turn it up, yes.
It's
Just,
okay.
yeah,
Hot.
yeah.
Okay.
We want to hear it. So.
Sure.
There.
Thanks.
If I start to bring my volume down unknowingly, just raise your hand. I'll ask you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Okay, yeah. So ohia, I think most people in this room are probably familiar with ohia, and the very vibrant flowers that they produce. So ohia is one of Kohala's kupuna trees that is a dominant forest species, and it brings support to so many elements of the forest. I mentioned our native forest birds. That's kind of one of the more common connections because they directly utilize the flowers. But ohia is bringing in that moisture, that rain, and collecting it, both on its, on the foliage and flowers, the trunks of the trees, but also all the epiphytes that are thriving on them. These trees are many, many hundreds of years old in the forest. And when you look up into a really old ohia, you see 20, 30 species growing on this one ohia tree. So when I think about water collection and mist collection, fog drip, things like that, you can see it happening up in Kohala. You can see it happening on these trees, and one tree can just be dripping with vine, even if it's not raining. If the clouds are just going, it's just amazing to see it actually happen. And ohia is only one of those keystone species that we have up there. We have many, kawa'u, olapa, pa'iniu, just the list goes on and on. And then down in the understory, all the ferns and epiphytes, microorganisms. Yeah, so just to talk about how important these species are, I've been going up to Kohala Cloud Forest for about 22 years now, and I've been watching it change both in good ways and in bad ways. We've seen introductions of invasive species that have really been detrimental to our cloud forest and bring the ability to capture water down, and also things like rapid ohia death coming in. I've seen ohia just start to wither and die in sections of the forest, and it's really worrisome. But also we've seen a lot of regeneration. We've seen a lot of community planting of native forest in ranch land area, bringing back the native forest that was once there, kind of creating that bringing back the balance again of open land and forest.
So what, Jake, does a food forest look like from the Kohala Cloud Forest perspective?
So this was the photo one of the photos that I had in my cache that I was like, oh, that'd be a good photo for the Kohala Cloud Forest. And it just kind of shows how much coverage there is in a lot of the mountains. That's on the windward slope of Kohala and a ahupua'a called Lapua'i Nui. Joe, can you go to the next photo?
Oh, whoopsie.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I think of food forest, see, my specialty is protecting native forests, and growing food is not one of my day-to-day practices. But when I think of food forest, I think what's growing food without water, what's growing food without vine. So it's all connected. Obviously, vine is so important. This photo, you can see mostly ohia, some olapa in there, and then looking down past the cloud forest down into Pu'ukapu. So you can see some of the ag lands below. When I think of food forest, I think of like a forest that's continuous from the mountain peak all the way to the ocean, and most of that being native forest, so that water capture can happen, throughout, and then intermixed in that native forest where it makes sense to have all your farming and agriculture. So it's just like it's not a start and stop thing that what we have going on right now. Like if you look from down here up, you see this beautiful forest up top, and then a hard line, and then one or two species below that, right? Like grassland. And for me, this is my personal perspective, is I would love to see that forest continue way farther down the mountain and just be just intermingle with farms, and all the little things that come along with the health of that ecosystem is like all the microorganisms and things that sustain the soil, the lepo. That's what I would really love to see. Maybe not in my lifetime, but it'd be amazing to have that.
Thank you, Jake. We'll be into the action part at the end, but we're going to actually get to talk with Kaiana Reynolds, our Mahi Aina supervisor. So Kaiana, we often hear you say, especially when you're training our new Aina partners, we feed Aina and Aina grows Aipono. And so could you tell us a little bit more of how you put that into practice at Namoku, which is our demonstration farm?
Mahalo. Yeah, Namoku is an area, it's an ahupua'a in Honoka'a, which is in Hamakua. And that is where we cultivate Aina, and we allow Aina to in return cultivate us. So we have a mana'o there that we practice that we don't feed our kalo, we don't feed our ava, we don't feed the plants, we feed Aina. And so one of the ways we do that is by growing for basically 2 cycles, which ends up being 2 years. We feed Aina for 2 years, and then we take from Aina for 1 year. And so we cultivate all of our canoe crops that you can think of that will grow down there. And yeah, so we grow food for Aina for 2 years, and we put that back into Aina throughout the 2 years, and then we take back about a third. And so we always want to make sure, living in this world where reciprocity is often off balance, where we're typically taxing Aina more than we're giving to Aina, that we flip that on its head and give to Aina more than we take. And so, yeah, one of the ways we do that is through planting these things we call cover crops. They can be anything really, but we grow a lot of plants, both native and non-native, just to give back to Aina. In return, Aina has given us abundance, and we'll talk about that abundance in a little bit.
Well, together.
Oh, can you go to the picture? I can explain that real
Yeah,
quick.
oh yeah.
So part of that abundance is created through Lahui, and so what we do is we have all these gatherings pretty often in Namoku. This one you're looking at here happens 1 to 2 times a year. We call it La Kalo. And in this event, we gather our communities from around, actually it's across the Pai Aina. We have people from every island, every district represented that come to this event. And we gather in Honoka'a to harvest the collection of kalo. At one point we had 118 varieties of kalo, and we kind of culled that down. At one point I had a bunch of hybrids that I had gathered from farmers just to document, but we've thrown all those away. And I documented them and we've gotten rid of them. So we're down to just about 90 to 100 varieties of kalo. From Hawaii, the South Pacific, all the way up through Southeast Asia, we keep all those varieties. And yeah, we give it away once a year. And we give them to all of our people that want to come and partake in the abundance, and then they help in return to replant. And it's a beautiful process where we have, keiki all the way up through, great grandma or great grandpa, multiple generations planting and harvesting kalo together on Aina. And so because we let Aina rest for so long, it gives us an abundance, and we share that abundance.
Well, let's talk more about that because you brought one of our Kohala. The Kohala Center holds some of the largest collections of kupuna varieties of our canoe crops such as kalo, ava, and ko. Tell us why that's important.
Yeah, so I brought ava with me today, but there were so many options. Actually, I was walking around Namoku early this morning. I was like, what's to come with me? I was talking to the plants by myself, looking around, and Halo always scream at me. And so I go up to him. I go, but you're not ready. Because they're still a little bit young, and I never want to interrupt the growth process. And so I said, I'll show you off all the time, and I can show you off today. So I walk around, and Ava's always screaming my name too. So I went to the Ava. I said, okay. So one of the Ava came with me. This is Nene. It's important to preserve all of these meakanu of our kupuna because there was a time when I first started collecting the kalo collection, maybe 11 or 12 years ago. I was going around and for every month it seemed like there was a variety disappearing out of a collection. Whether that's through, four-legged, critters or two-legged critters or whatever happens to kalo throughout its lifespan. Sometimes it's just in a tissue culture tube in the lion's arboretum, and that fails. And so we were losing varieties left and right. And I was at the time training up with Jerry. I was his last apprentice before he passed away, Jerry Kononui. And after I trained with him one day, I went home and I went to bed, had some ava, went to sleep, and I had this voice come to me that said, if not you, who? And that's something we often hear with whatever, spaces we're in. And so I took that to mean, who is going to preserve these ancestral varieties if I don't do it? Luckily, there's a lot of people doing it nowadays, which is great. At the time, there weren't. And so I went around this journey, collected all the varieties, we brought them to Namoku, they're thriving. The main kuleana for us is to act as a waihona, somewhere that's just a temporary repository until these plants can make it back to the places that they thrived in anciently. The hope is that, it's kind of the model where we hope we put ourselves out of business. We hope one day we don't have to hold this collection because it's thriving everywhere else. And actually with our kalo, we're getting there. With our ava, slowly we're getting there. All of our varieties are getting out. And so this represents just a small piece of the entire waihona that Namoku currently houses.
So the Kohala Center has been training families, students, teachers, farmers, ranchers to grow food using both Hawaiian and Western knowledge systems and practices through a program called Ohaha. So now you are expanding the pathways to include paid apprenticeships. Having just completed our most recent Oaxaca cohort, can you share some of the insights about how community members are wanting to grow food and forests and are growing food and forests?
Yeah, mahalo. So Oaxaca is a program that was birthed out of a high school program we used to run where we would recruit high school students from across eastern Hawaii and bring them to Namoku and teach them how to grow food. Super effective program, but we had desire from their parents to come to the program. And so we created this adult version of the program where we basically introduce people to Aina, to these growing practices and how to get their land to flourish. The desire has been great. This is our last cohort that we've had. We finished it just maybe a month ago. And these mahi'ai came from all across, Hawaii. They're from, some from Puna, some from Hilo, some from Hamakua, some from Kohala. And they gathered to be able to learn some of the tools and the tricks to get their model to thrive. Desire has been great. Ohaha is a term that I found in an old Hawaiian newspaper article that refers to a kalo plant that had a vigorous number of oha or keiki growing around it. And so the term actually means to flourish or to abundance essentially. And the idea of this program is how can we get mahi'ai or people who want to be mahi'ai, cultivators of land and food, to flourish. And what we look at around Hamakua, around Kohala today is that we see, in terms of food security, kind of a scarcity. And what scarcity does, the reason how scarcity is a danger to our people is because when you're in times of scarcity, we don't act like ourselves, and we don't share, right? We're not thinking normally because we're all about thinking individualistic. But in times of abundance, when things are flourishing, that's when we tend to act like our kupuna. We give freely, we give our best. And so, how can we get back to a state of flourishing? We're starting by creating these mahi'ai. And again, we're not creating, we're acting as vessels. Aina's the teacher, right? Aina's the kumu. We just bring them to Aina and let Aina do his or her thing. In return, what we're trying to do is create a pathway where they leave us and are ready to enter into the workforce, whether it's through actually growing food in their own Aina, entering other nonprofits to be able to go there, and then ultimately we are bringing some back to ourselves through an apprenticeship program that we want to hanai these individuals even more and let them flourish even more. And so the ultimate end for this was to actually bring them back in and get the cycle going again so that we can create more mahi'ai and people who can teach.
Thank you. Okay, moving down the line. Margot. Okay, Margot. The Kohala Center has been invited to be part of a statewide initiative of Hawaii Good Food Alliance called Aiaola. What is this about and how might it help our Waimea community?
So I brought props. Yana brought the stories, but I brought props. So Aiaola is, you'll see all of the organizations on the screen here. We're a cohort that comes together of medical centers, of producers, of food hubs, and it really is to expand the food as medicine program. So Hawaii is one of 20 states that has received approval from the federal government to do a test around food as medicine. And that's really providing nutritious local produce and foods to our kupuna, to our keiki, to everyone in our communities. Using the Medicaid waiver, so it can be used as a prescription, whether you're doing, and it includes meals themselves, it can include meal prep, it can include cooking classes, it can include invitations to Aina to teach them how to grow their own malas, it can include produce packs. And so there's a number of groups that have come together that are doing some tests. There's some in Manalo to feed them meals. They give them, for Kalihi, they're giving 2 meals a week, as well as a produce pack. They come in and learn cooking classes and how to use the things in the produce packs, and really trying to address the needs for healthy kanaka before the illness becomes an issue, right? So how do we stem that and then maintain the cost, right? Because you're not having to deal with all the higher costs of the medical interventions as you go forward. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us, I think, for Waimea. We see it as an opportunity for our mahi'ai to have access to new funding. It's institutional buyers, right? So now you're not just selling at your farmer's market or to the KTA or to direct, but now you can be part of a program where the health clinics may be working with you to purchase the produce that you're creating and put it in packs to distribute back out in the community. So that just balances out when you're looking, it's a hard, farming is hard, right? So how can you feed community in a way that allows you to have that reimbursement? So it's very exciting. We've just started. We went to our 2 sessions. We gathered at Ma'o up in Waianae to see the work they're doing. And we continue to learn from each other across the island. As you can imagine, it's a group has to understand how to do the reimbursements and different things. So it's quite complex because of the medical HIPAA requirements and different things. But it's exciting that the Hawaii Good Food Alliance received a grant to do this program, and that we'll continue to learn. And whatever we learn, we bring back to Waimea or to North Hawaii to share out with all of our partners that we have here. So,
Thank you. Well, you have a friend also.
Yes.
A friend, Kohala. So how is the Kohala Center approaching technical assistance for those wanting to grow native food forests as part of a regional food system and greater food security?
So we really try and work with our mahi'ai and those in our community to learn by doing, right? So as Kaiana said, we invite community in to help us to maintain the kupuna crops that we have. We'd like to see more native food forests being grown that include what Jake mentioned. So we have the ohia that captures the rain, as well as the food plants that we have. So coal, the sugar cane, growing up in Waimea or growing up on Hawaii Island, sugar was always seen as plantations, right? We always thought that was my initial connection, was that I didn't realize that we have heirloom coal, and that Hawaiians fed 20, 30, tens of thousands of people in our Kohala field system with coal, way before we saw the plantations come into Hawaii. And so we're learning together. Kaiana did a wonderful workshop for our team internally to understand the benefits of coal, what that looks like, who you plant it, who are the companion, who else we might plant coal with. Is it uala or sweet potato and coal that grow well together and are complementary? Where we plant it, how we do it, that it's a nitrogen fixer. That coal was used in many gardens because it had that attribute. So we work with our community and those that would like to farm or those that have access to farmland. We're bringing them in. We're going to be hosting a la coal up at Kelvivai, where we'll learn together. Some of it we're learning together as we go with each other on how do we want to plant this, how do we create a food forest that each of you hopefully will then spread out throughout our community. And now we have food forests in your own gardens, or if you have aina that you're doing and producing food that has starting with our native food forest, but then planting other things that are necessary for nutrition in our community. So, super excited.
Collectives. Yeah. So this takes us to Pu'ukapu, and the Kohala Center has been learning more about not just Pu'ukapu as we initially relate to it as Department of Hawaiian Homestead Lands, but as an ancient Ili Aina Pu'upono. So how has returning to ancestral knowledge in Aina at Pu'ukapu helped to shape what food forests might have looked like before that helps inform our future efforts?
So, and Cheryl's done a lot of this research that she shared with us. So we were gifted some land to manage and activate in Pu'ukapu. And from that started our journey to understand this idea of Pu'ukapu. So, many will say it's a hill, Pu'u is a hill, kapu is sacred. Is it just that though? But it is so much more, right? It's an Ili Aina Pono because it wasn't part of the Akapua'a system. So Pu'ukapu was set aside to feed our communities, and it didn't transfer from the ruling leadership at any given time. It was maintained by the Konohiki, and they grew food ongoing for our population here in Waimea. So it was a food source. When you say Waimea, I think oftentimes in nearer times, in olden days, Waimea has always been a food basket for our communities here in the islands. And it existed way back until those days and it's much bigger. I think there's another,
let's do that.
it's bigger than you think of just our Pu'ukapu as we see around us today. So it goes all the way up to Waika, and you can see. I think you got a point, Cheryl. Yeah,
So it actually
it
it even
extends
extends further.
much further than
Here,
we are
we
aware
are down there.
of. And it was a community. Or it was Aina that fed so many for generations. So as we look to regenerating that activity here, the potential and the opportunity that we have as we come together as community is very exciting.
Wonderful.
So this circled area is the Aina that we have that was part of Mahuka. Is that right? But during the Mahele, there were 20 applicants, 18 that received land here in Pu'ukapu. And this is a map that we found that just shows what they grew here in Waimea. That was a key part of, again, you see the different things that they're growing. Coal,
That was wrong. Cole was
no,
wrong.
Cole
This
was
was
wrong.
the translated person who translated this.
Sugarcane. Oh no.
No,
Oh.
yeah, we're still
Okay.
trying to
Kalo,
translate.
my
That's okay.
Wow.
Everything else looked good though.
Irish potato, a lot of potatoes that came out of this. Mamaki, were all grown here in Waimea. And so as we look at this opportunity, we're going to be planting coal up at Kelivai, our property on the Kohala Mountain Road. But we're also going to convene our TKC team here in October to start testing coal in Pu'ukapu and seeing what that will look like. And bringing community out to help us with that.
Like we did it. Okay, now let's head over to Anyani Ku, our Mo'olelo Aina specialist. Okay, so Anyani Ku, you have been documenting our native forest trials through photos over the past few years. What excites you about returning our native plants to fulfill their kuleana once again as food forests?
One of the things that excites me about watching the different hola of these plants coming back into these food forests is the return to a system of abundance. And it's funny that I think I'm gonna echo a lot of what they had already shared, but that's essentially what it comes down for me is it's just getting back to that place of abundance. And within that system, there's a lot of things that kind of show up for me. But the three things that really kind of stuck with me is the restoration of our waters, our bai, the restoration of our pilina with aina, and with that, our kuleana to Malamara. And so when I had to think about, what is a food forest? To me, I think it's more than just feeding just people, as Jake was sharing earlier. I think it's a system that fed everyone, right? Not just Kanaka, but everyone from the birds to the ilo, the worms in the ground, down to the kai, to all the corals, and even the i'a. So just understanding that connection from Maka to Makai, right? And just returning to that place of abundance that feeds everyone, from mountain to sea. And just, going out on Aina and kind of watching the different plants grow, I have the opportunity to learn from them and just spend time with them and kind of like get to know them as almost as if they were a person, so, and that's how what I've learned is that's kind of how you have to see it, right? You have to build that relationship, and the only way you can build that relationship is you got to spend time, right? And the more time that you spend, the stronger that connection is. And when that connection is stronger, then now you get kuleana because you care for this aina, you care for these plants. And so that is the thing that excites me, is returning to that place so that we can make sure that, you know, Aina is being fed and so that Aina can feed us.
So I'm gonna have you share. We have 2 photos on it. So Aniane Ku captures lots of stories from our Aina and our Kanaka, and is also doing through photos as well as others. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here, and yeah.
Yeah.
Share with us. What is this?
Yeah, so for context, across TKC, I help to share the stories and document the work that we do, you know, in all the different Aina, not just in Kohala and Waimea, but, you know, out down through Kahalu'u, out at Namoku and Honaka'a. But this particular hana that I've been a part of for the last few years is, involves collecting kilo, collecting observations, and photo points. And so this picture here is at Keawe'wai in Kohala. And this photo, I did not take this photo. This photo was taken back in April of 2022. And what you'll see is sort of in the background, you can kind of see some hoala out growing. Yeah. Yeah. But what where I want to draw your attention is that little poie right there growing. And so you, a few reference points, you see the pohaku that is there gathered, and then you see the one. Oh, yeah.
Get up. Show them.
Yeah. So then, yeah, the poie here in the front, and then you have these pohaku here, and then you also have one here. So now she's gonna move to the next, and you'll see. It might not seem like it, but this is actually the same photo or the same spot where this photo was taken. And this was in June of this year, 2025. And so I go out periodically to, again, gather these kilos, gather these photos. And in gathering all this data, I had the opportunity to just pay attention to how these plants are adapting to different changes in our Aina cycles, right? The weather pattern, they're all shifting. And so paying attention to how they adapt to, especially in this time, how dry it's been. And so I kind of forget where I was going with that. It was the question.
It's good.
What was the question again?
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that rock at the bottom is the same pohaku?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing. And how long was that span? Sorry, I didn't.
So it was from 2022 to 2025, so about a span of 3 years. So those poie that are growing, they're actually like taller than me. I mean, not to say that I'm a big guy, but you know, they started off like, you know, like knee height, and now they're taller than me, you know. So it's been really cool to kind of witness that transformation of Aina. And what you don't see, or what is in the frame but might be hard to see, is there's actually A'ali'i, there's Iliahi, there's A'ave'ave'a, there's all these different native plants that are actually spread all around. So this was just one of the many units that we outplanted out at Keawe'wai to really learn from them. Like Kaiana said, you know, Aina is our kumu, you know, and so I'm just there to, you know, spend time and just try to learn, you know, what it is that they're telling us, you know, and that's gonna help to inform what we do next, you know. Because we don't want it to end here. We want to be able to learn from them and use that ike to better our practices, you know, so that, again, Aina has the best chance to survive and essentially to, you know, feed us and, you know, feed each other, reciprocity.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that through your ho'ola'au. So we embarked on this journey to create native forest starter kits to help others to hopefully also grow our food forest. So has our team identified any key native plants that should be part of any native forest starter kit for those wanting to become an INA partner alongside of us as the Kohala Center in this work?
I don't know if we ever came, if we have gotten to a point where as a team we decided, which ho'ola'au. But when I had to think about, what is the ho'ola'au that I would want to see in every sort of starter kit, and I had a hard time as well trying to narrow it down to one plant. And initially I was thinking about ohia, but I'm glad I never choose ohia because that is been ohia. And so I decided to bring a'ali'i, and the reason why I brought a'ali'i is really in these last few months, for those of us that live in Waimea, in Kohala, and maybe even beyond, how dry it's been. And as I was making my way throughout the different units of all the mea kanu, all the plants that we have growing, like I mentioned before, ilima, iliahi, a'aweaweo, a'ali'i, ohia, ulei, all these different ho'ola'au. A'ali'i for me is the one that stood out, especially in this time of malo'o or dryness. In this area that we call Keawe'wai Upper, where it's actually already a dry area. It's even drier now. And so even though we are noticing signs of, we would say, kind of struggling a little bit, but maybe what I would say is they're in this mode of like self-preservation, right? So they're realizing that there's even less water than there was before. And so we start to see the vibrancy of the lau, the leaves of these a'ali'i, as resilient as they are, starting to kind of recede a little. But in comparison to some of these other ho'ola'au, they're doing a little bit better. And so many of us know how strong and how resilient a'ali'i is. But being able to kind of pay attention and see that and watch it play out, in these last few months, it really solidified really the ike of our kupuna, right? Because there's olelo no'ayao that speak to the resiliency and the adaptability of this plant. So if I can take one, this is the one that I would take moving forward. Because you want a ho'ola'au that can adapt, that is resilient. But in addition to that, they also help to hold the soil. They help to provide shelter and protection for other ho'ola'au to come up. So if you're in a drier area, that's what I would, that's what I would suggest.
Okay. So another project we've been working on is our new website, which is coming out soon. And we're also getting ready for a great hosting at Kahilo Theater of the work that we're doing and the filming of the documentary Keepers of the Bay on January 11th, putting a plug in. But can you talk more about these things and other ways that the community can connect with us?
Yeah. There's actually a number of ways to connect with us. Learn more about the work that we do. The first is you can visit our website at kohalacenter.org. As Cheryl mentioned, we're going to be shifting to a new website. So look out for that. We'll be sharing that out on social media. If you guys are on Instagram and Facebook, follow us at the Kohala Center. In addition to that, we also have a newsletter, a leaflet newsletter, where we share stories of growing healthy aina. We talk about the journey that we're on. None of us is experts. We all are on this learning journey. And so it's a way to invite you guys into that journey with us. And as we learn, we hope to share some of the lessons and learnings, and so that we all can kind of grow. We also have our agriculture bulletin, which is kind of like tied more into like the work that Margo guys do. So, you know, mahi'ai farmers, food producers, a lot of resources, a lot of grant opportunities. So if you guys looking for money, there's a lot of information and that goes out like twice a month and there's always new opportunities. So it's just a great, easy way to kind of plug in and know, you know, what's out there, you know, if you guys are in that space. And then we have a, you know, for the guys that's real fancy, we get the QR code that you can that will take you to our link tree. And in our link tree, there's a link where you can sign up for all the different, or visit the website, sign up for any of our communications. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, you know, build this waihona, this depository of ike, but not just hold it, you know, share it out. Because what good is it if we just, you know, keep them to ourselves, you know, share. So, yeah, come connect with us.
Thank you. Thank you, team. Before we open up for questions, and we have a little time for that, we're going to show one of the beautiful videos that Anianiku and the folks produced that kind of gives you a little closing to our talk here. So bear with me as it's always fun to check things. Okay. To make sure the audio. Okay, we should be good to go.
Kohala is the hiapo, eldest born, caretaker of all of Hawaii Island, from Honokea to Keapuolono and across the Okana of Waimea. A'ohe u'i hele wale o Kohala. Kohala's people have always been prepared for the challenges of the road ahead and ready to join into the work at hand. As such, Kohala and its people have helped to care for all of those across Hawaii Island. Changed conditions have interrupted the natural flows and cycles of the Aina and its people, as seen in disappearing native forests, diminished waters, disrupted foodways, declining corals, and disconnected communities. What can we do? We can know our places, our people, and their histories. We can intimately understand the changing conditions of our environment. We can protect, preserve, propagate, and perpetuate the treasures of our Aina and people. We can learn from our stories to create a better future. We can unite as a Kohala community. When we replant our native forests, Kohala heals. When we reconnect to our local foodways, Kohala heals. When we protect our reefs, Kohala heals. When we practice our traditions, Kohala heals. When we gather as a community, Kohala heals. What future are we creating for Kohala and Hawaii? How do we carry on the kuleana of the hiapo? We are the Kohala Center. We return ancestral knowledge and place-based research into daily practice. Join us.
How are you doing on time, Rich?
We're perfect.
We're
We have
perfect.
15 minutes for Q&A, and I'll let you
Yeah,
maybe
happy
facilitate
to
that.
answer any questions. Yeah, Beth.
So real quick, the Kaweawai unit, is that the old Lincoln, Lindsay, Shawnee's property? Okay.
So it's 60 acres of what was once 520 acres of
Right.
forested land division.
Okay, cool. So my question to that is,
will Calvi Vai, the stream, will it ever run again? Or is Parker Ranch gonna keep on collecting that water? I'm hoping that they let it go and let it run its course, right? So that
we
you
have
guys
lots
can
to say about that.
that.
But it does run. We do track how often it runs. We look at the signs that tell us when it is going to run because our water that irrigates our nurseries that we, drink from there comes from that stream. It's a very important stream. It's the largest stream on the leeward side of Kohala. It's very significant, hence the name Kiawe Vai. And so it definitely, even in the last few years, has really diminished in the times it flows and how long it flows. So just we continue in short times, though we do know that it was once not intermittent, right? Yeah. But that's one of the reasons the plantings, and we have 7 units actually throughout Kiawe Vai alone, with over 5,000 natives that are growing there now, especially along the riparian corridors, right? Because that's the greatest hope. And it's really lovely because we have some of the very ancient ohia and other kupuna that still exist there because the goats and the cattle and everything didn't get to it. So there's, it's still a place of hope and renewal and regeneration. But then we do know, right, this is like you're saying, the interconnectedness of what's happening in the cloud forest. And so Jake and the team is trying to save what we have up there, but then we have some big gaps, right, down. And so we've always dreamt about how do we bring the forest down to the mountain? Right. Then we'll know that because the streams, all of the streams will flow.
Yeah, because from my understanding, Calvi, what is that? Kauai Uka was very dependent on that stream before. There used to be a lot of families that lived down below that. So I hope it flows again.
So above, if you're driving Kavi, right, Kohala Mountain Road, so that whole area, Kauai Uka, connected to Kauai Kai, there's, folks would go up and down that mountain by foot. And it's very significant as well because back in Kamehameha's day, right, you have Kohala, you have Kauai Harbor there, and so it was feeding thousands.
Yeah, so it wasn't dry back then.
No,
So that's so important that the water flows. And another quick question for Brother Reynolds. For Pu'ukapu, what was the kalo that was grown in Pu'ukapu?
I've never found that.
No, I've been trying to research.
Good question.
Because Waimea is such a different elevation to everywhere else, and I've been struggling trying to.
We have kalo that were famous in Kohala. They didn't say specifically where. My assumption was that it was more Hawaii side, Kapa'au. But the real answer to that is let me know who wants to grow the collection here, and you tell me.
Okay.
If you guys are willing to, I'll give you all the varieties, and you just tell me who grows here, because I'm not from Waimea, I don't know. I would love for someone from here to take that cool down number. Yeah, let me know if anyone's interested.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's about preserving and practice, and maybe this is done, but I just from a layman's standpoint, when that before and after picture that was so inspiring, right? And you say it helps us to develop our practices. Is that literally just planting? I mean, you guys don't have irrigation there, you don't, what are the practices? What are you learning from that? You planted and you're observing, and so, you know what I'm getting at? Like, what are the practices? When you came in and you planted, you're just planting, and that's natural watering, that's natural environment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because it's curious for, I think, a layman, like, what do you guys, you're not over there watering it every day, right?
Yeah, actually,
And
can I take a quick stab?
too.
Can I take a quick?
He was there before I came in.
But preserving is like keeping people away, is it fencing, is it, fencing from animals? What do those really mean in terms for laymen, what you guys do?
Yeah, so everything you mentioned, and more. I think just learning from trial and error and really keeping track of what we tried and what worked and what didn't. Taking seed from Aina, not from somewhere else. That plays a big part of it. You don't want to bring seed from Mauna Kea and expect it to do good in Kohala, and vice versa, right? Diversifying where your seed is coming from in Kohala really helps the genetic pool. But I think site selection plays a massive role. I think starting from where there is still some moisture in the soil and building off of that, instead of trying in the most hard places and expecting things to survive, building up from the lower lands and inlet gulches. Like that photo was actually on the slope of Kavibai Stream. I think utilizing what's there, like those pohaku, they hold more moisture. They're like a solid form of protection from the sun. If you look underneath pohaku or feel underneath pohaku around them, there's a little bit more moisture there. Utilizing mulch, utilizing the invasive species that are already growing there to tell you what's going on. The kikuyu grass is a great way to know, like, oh wow, there's actually way more moisture now that this kohala is growing right here. The grass is all green underneath. So maybe we can start by planting more next to those soldier trees that were first planted. And watering by hand, yes, definitely. Like we water by hand a lot. I think we work in a planting area up Mauka side of the Kohala Mountain Road called Kauai Corridor. And during this last July and August, we put in about 600 ohia, and we had to hand water every single one of those about 5 times, and some of them 6 times where they're planted in a dry area. These are all things that we learned along the way, because it's not practical to install irrigation across a landscape and just leave it there, or go and pull it out and reuse it. It would be too time consuming. So hand watering with backpack sprayers. I think in the video you saw a backpack sprayer being used. That wasn't for herbicide. That's just water.
Anybody else?
Maybe if I could add to that, I'll use an example that we just had in our last photo point collection. The first is recognizing that kilo is a practice. That is a practice. Of paying attention and of observation. And one of the things that we notice with A'ali'i is in one of the units. So we have Keaweawai upper, and then we have Keaweawai lower. And essentially the difference between the 2 different units is one is really dry, and the other is near the bank of Keaweawai Stream. And as we started to kind of collect the flowers, because they're starting to dry out right now, and we rubbed them together, and we started to look at the seeds. The person that was with me that day, Lei, she actually mentioned and shared, she's like, hey, you know what's funny? I noticed that the seeds down here at Keaweawai Lower is bigger, and so that's an example of how kilo can inform certain practices, like taking the best seeds, right? Like Jake was kind of saying, and the other part of it is intention. Every unit had it was a trial, but there was also intentions. Intention. It was intentional learning, intentionally putting them in a really dry area to see how they do. Because if all we do is water, they'll never be able to build that resiliency. Because it's not realistic that we can water all the time. And so there's a lot others, but that is just one example that just happened most recently. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin.
Oh, you mentioned the cover crops. Which kind of cover crops are you using right now?
Our favorite cover crop to use is guinea grass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of grass?
Guinea grass. We love cane grass. We love guinea grass. I know it sounds terrible, but it's one of the best. Here's the thing, right? Sourcing. What I want to say is we also source like the sorghums and the criddle areas and the pigeon peas and daikon radish, mustard, buckwheat. We do all of that as well.
Yeah.
If we have the money to, but we don't always have. Here's the thing, right? Importing seed for cover crop or even buying it locally is not the best model either. We're trying to be sustainable. So in that sense, Uncle Jerry used to always say, use what you get. Well, we got guinea grass. We got lots of elephant grass or napier grass. So all we're doing is letting that grow as our main biomass, and then we put that back into the aina. And the aina loves to eat that, especially the cane grass, because there's sugar in it. and the microbes go nuts over that stuff. And so the key is to hit it before it seeds.
That was gonna be my question. You cut them back before you.
Always hit it
Okay,
before it
yeah.
seeds.
Okay.
Always hit it before it seeds and put it back in and then let it regrow and then do it again. It's a surprisingly effective cover crop.
And you gotta do it if you have a tractor, right? 'Cause
That's why.
you don't want it to
So that's a disclaimer, right? The other ones I mentioned is for those who don't have tractors.
Yeah.
Because-
Because pull them up. Yeah.
And you can sickle them and drop them, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing this, yeah, that's the only reason it works for us is because we have a tractor.
Okay. Because that's small, like just that home type thing. I've tried like white clover, red clover, and it's hard for keep them consistent.
And you gotta
so-
weed those a lot in the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
Or they won't create that mat that you need to
Yeah.
do. But yeah, we if you want a super easy one, it can get a little. You gotta hit it before it seeds. It's
Yeah.
Lab's a good one. It creates this mat of vines, but then you gotta hit it before it seeds, or it can become almost a problem. So
Sorry. What was the other last one you just said?
Lab. Yeah, it's a nitrogen fixing vine that covers the entire aina, and then you gotta hit it back before it seeds, or it does reseed. So it's really just whatever you have for you, use, and whatever tools you have, you gotta adjust.
Yeah.
So we have a home mix. We also have native plants we use, like instead of cowpea, we've been using na'anea.
No, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, whatever you. There's always a
mat,
native
yeah.
equivalent you can use. And so
I say because a coolie becomes just like a mat when it's watered too,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I have a friend who has an abundance of willy willy on his aina. He grows, thousands of them, and he uses that as his nitrogen fixing chop and drop. Right.
For real.
Really, he's chopping and dropping. And so it's because it's an abundance. And
Yeah.
Use what get. Yeah, whatever's around you,
Yeah.
that's what you use.
Well,
Good question.
when you said sugarcane is a nitrogen fixer, so just planting it
Yep.
will
So
feed the soil?
Yep. So sugarcane has been actually really well proven to be a soil builder. It creates a hale for every bug and worm you can think of. But in addition to that, breaking up compaction, the lobe of the sugarcane as they get older have a white fuzz on them. Have you ever seen that?
Right.
And not the actual hairs themselves that are like fiberglass, but there's a white coating on the sheath and even on sometimes the stalk. That white coating has a beneficial microbe and bacteria in there that creates a asymbiotic method of producing nitrogen. So typically nitrogen fixers will suck nitrogen from the air, right? Talking about legumes, and they'll put it into the root systems in storage. And then when trauma occurs to the plant, they release that storage. Okay? So that's one way of nitrogen fixation. This way is a really revolutionary way that's been understood. And it gives us a clue as to why all of our kupuna said they grew this around their lo'i and around any model that they had. Is because as the leaves fall to the ground and decompose, those microbes and bacteria are released into the soil, and the bacteria, it's a nitrogen fixing bacteria. And that bacteria will get the nitrogen from the air and put it into the soil. And so rather than the plant doing it, it's the bacteria on the plant that does it. So one of the only plants that we know of yet that fixes nitrogen in a separate way. It's called asymbiotic nitrogen
So
fixation.
not actually cut them back and turn them like
Nope,
you do.
just
Okay.
strip the leaves and put them on the ground.
Shoots.
Yeah. Yeah, matter of fact, when we plant coal, that's why we only plant this upper section. Is because the growth hormones are the most here. Even though the makas
Yeah.
look big on the stalk, we don't plant those because the top with the sheath and the leaves, plant it all in the ground together, lay it down, because the microbes, you're inoculating the soil with the
Closer,
bacteria.
yeah.
Yeah. So the sheath of the leaf is what has that microbe and bacteria that produce the nitrogen.
Right on.
So like growing up, my mom and dad always, well, we only had purple variety, but then later on came the other varieties. Is there a difference or?
So the most common purple variety you'll see moving around is actually from Tonga. It's a real thick one, real juicy, real tall,
Yeah.
vigorous grower. And then the other typical one you see that's yellow is yellow Caledonia. It's from New Caledonia. It's a hybrid made by the sugarcane industry. That was basically what everyone was growing for
Right.
cane production. We don't grow those at our
Yeah.
farm. We grow all of our kupuna ones. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Amazing work. Let's thank our speaker.